a 247 sports analyst who played for Alabama and once worked for Maryland and also worked for Vanderbilt, has decided to go out of his way to throw a shot at Tennessee. Smoke Dixon was on a podcast or on a show yesterday with Madeline Burke and was asked about Tennessee and the situation they're in with Joey Aguilar. And he said some interesting things. So I'm just going to share this with you. Here's what Smoke Dixon said about Tennessee and Joey Aguilar.
Now, I mean, the Vols, they made the CFP last season with Nico. So what is their ceiling this season with Aguilar?
Oh, man, you're running right back into where Jeremy Pruitt left. In my opinion, when you don't have a quarterback that can get you to 10 wins. We're talking about the team that just lost to the national champions in the playoffs. So you're going down a level and down a step in terms of quarterback play. Irregardless of what everyone thinks about Nico's ability or how he played or how Tennessee's offense was last year in terms of heavy run, 75th in pass or 76th in passing offense, he still was a player that defensive coordinator had to stay up late at night just because if he was on, Tennessee was almost unbeatable.
Okay. All right. Before I get going, Smoke Dixon was in his most recent job was the GM of Maryland, hired by Mike Loxley. And before that, he was the director of scouting at Vanderbilt. He also, before being the director of scouting at Vanderbilt, back in the day, played for Alabama. And just famously, and I have to show this, and I'm going to give him the credit for this, he had one of the most sickening plays in Tennessee-Alabama history. 2002, Tennessee-Alabama. Here is Smoke Dixon. I'm going to show the highlight, guys. If it's going to torture you, I apologize, but I'm being fully fair on who this guy is. This is 2002, Tennessee-Alabama. For those who don't remember, Tennessee had started the year ranked number 5, had stumbled to a 4-2 start due to injuries. They were banged up. They had just lost to Georgia and were coming off a bye and were trying to salvage a season that was not as good as they thought was going to be. They were hosting an Alabama team that was on probation but would finish 10-3 and in the top 25. And at the time, Tennessee was on a 7-game winning streak against Alabama. They forced a 3-and-out on Alabama's opening drive, and then they were driving to potentially score a touchdown with Casey Clausen on their drive, and then this
second
right
down,
here.
A quick out pass gets it in the flat, and that ball is overthrown.
You can see Smoke Dixon hits it, and he runs it all the way back the other way for a touchdown. Yeah, that player who touchdown back was Smoke Dixon. Gerald Dixon was his name. So credit to that. He has every right to talk trash on that, if that's fair. However, that's an absolutely asinine statement. Okay, look, we have debated whether or not Joey Aguilar's how much of a downgrade or upgrade he is from Nico Eberle. I've given you guys my thoughts. That Joey Aguilar in a vacuum is a downgrade from what Nico Eberle would have been this year. I think Joey Aguilar is less talented than Nico. However, Joey Aguilar at Tennessee is an upgrade over Nico from last year, and Joey Aguilar at Tennessee is an upgrade, will be better than Nico is at UCLA. And also Joey Aguilar at Tennessee makes Tennessee upgrade as a team because even though he won't be as good as Nico would have been this year at Tennessee, Tennessee now has more talent around them. To Smoke Dixon's point, let me steel man his point real quick. He said defensive coordinators had to stay up at night preparing for Nico. Look, that may not be entirely untrue, guys. There's a reason Dylan Sampson broke the all-time record for yards and touchdowns last year. Teams were selling out to that 3-3-5 shell defense to where Tennessee maybe only had 2 available deep shots a game, whereas with Hendon Hooker in 2022, they had like 7. We can't lie about that, okay? We can't pretend that, Tennessee didn't lose anybody important in Nico. No, they lost who they really wanted at quarterback for the fall. I'm just going to be honest with you in terms of talent. But we also have to be fair that it's not like the defensive coordinators were preparing for Nico because of what he showed them on the field. Defensive coordinators were selling out to take away the deep ball because of what Hendon Hooker did in Josh Heupel's offense and 2022, and also what Nico Iamaleava was hyped up to be. I think those two things had way more to do with defenses selling out and adjusting their schemes against Tennessee last year to play that shell defense than anything that Nico Iamaleava showed. And Smoke Dixon should know that as a 247 Sports analyst. So, I mean, honestly, I think that's absolutely ridiculous for Smoke Dixon to not bring that up. And I got to be honest, when I see that, you got to think that it feels like, and maybe I'm crazy, but it just feels like having worked for Vanderbilt and then played at Alabama, he's got a personal hatred of Tennessee, right? I mean, isn't that the only way to go there? I know Tennessee and other schools like to do that all the time with reporters and analysts from certain schools to say that they have a bias against their rival school. But I gotta be honest, that's a really weird statement to say. And then to say they're going back to the Jeremy Pruitt years is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, let's get this out of the way. Jeremy Pruitt, they had a quarterback during the Jeremy Pruitt years. He was just misused. I'm still a defender to a certain degree of Jared Garantano because a lot of the issues he had Jared Garantano played for 5 different offensive coordinators. I'm sorry, he played for 4 different offensive coordinators during his 5 years at Tennessee. And the only time he returned an offensive coordinator was the COVID year when everybody took a major step back. Okay, so Jared Garantano had a lot to deal with and was under a really bad coaching situation. I'm still not so sure Jared Garantano wouldn't have worked out under Josh Heupel. Okay, he ended up getting NFL money. Say what you want about him, he got NFL money. He dealt with a lot. Remember the later part of the 2019 season? No one questioned Garantano during that time when he threw for 400 yards in a close win against Missouri back in 2019 and really had a strong finish to that season. So there was a lot more than just Garantano during that time. Tennessee wasn't struggling because they didn't have a quarterback. They were struggling because they didn't have the right offensive system. They had a coach who wasn't cut out to be a head coach. There were just so many other issues going on with the program during that time. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous to suggest anything different. Super chat from Timothy McGee. Hey, Negative Nancy, go to who Heupel's QBs he coached before and after, and every QB Hooker threw for 34 at Tech and went down to only throw 5 interceptions. No, Timothy, I'm with you. Heupel's quarterbacks play much better under him. Totally on your side on that. That's the point I'm making. Is Tennessee? We're talking about Tennessee going back to the Jeremy Pruitt era because of who they got a quarterback. That's ignoring the fact that the issue with Tennessee wasn't who they had a quarterback. It was how they used him. As Elias Gray points out, JG got arguably the worst hand dealt to him of any QB I've seen at Tennessee that didn't get hurt. Exactly. Totally agree. What the H brought to you by Double D Piping. A quick message from them. Double D Piping fire protection contractors providing around-the-clock service, protecting their customers' lives and properties all the time.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back. Getting back to our poll question real quick. Should the Vols Nico Iamaleava? Out of 59 votes, 30 said yes, 29 said no. They have no legal grounds. So, man, very close here. How about this? I'm going to set up this poll question real quick. Smoke Dixon saying the Vols are going back to their Jeremy Pruitt days is somewhat valid. Just hating from a Vandy Bama guy. You guys let me know what you think about that. So yeah, Smoke Dixon saying the Vols are going back to their Jeremy Pruitt days is somewhat valid, just hating from a Vandy Bama guy. Because it does kind of look like just hating from a Vandy Bama guy, okay? So that's where I'm landing with this. Now, to a couple other points on the message board. Derek Owen says, I'm not going to simp with Jay-Z. That would be insanity to give that man one excuse. Derek, look, JG had a lot going on, was dealing with a lot more than you think during that time, particularly with the coaching staff and how everybody was handling everything. Again, I want to go back to the whole point Smoke Dixon was saying, that defensive coordinators had to adjust for Nico, and he's saying that they don't have their quarterback now. Smoke Dixon is ignoring everything that happened, as was already brought up earlier with Timothy McGee Super Chat. Thanks, Timothy. With Hendon Hooker And all these other different quarterbacks that Josh Heupel has worked with over the years, Drew Lock, quarterbacks who were nowhere near as good as they were until they played under Heupel. So you can't just fully go with what Joey Aguilar did. And saying defensive coordinators had to adjust for Nico is basing that off, yes, what they did, but you got to go deeper and understand that they adjusted last year because of Josh Heupel's reputation and Hendon Hooker. So it's a pretty kind of crazy thing to suggest that Tennessee's going to go back to the Jeremy Pruitt days because of who their quarterback is, when the issues of the quarterback oftentimes come down to coaching at Tennessee. Okay. Now, sometimes the quarterback is immune to the coaching and helps uplift the coach. Josh Dobbs, for instance, did save Butch Jones for 2 more years than he should have been saved. But at the same time, Josh Dobbs had Mike DeBoard as a offensive coordinator, and DeBoard did a heck of a job. You guys are having a great, hilarious time on the message board. I love what was said by GBMFO, or not GBMFO. Who was it that put it up? Elias Gray said it first. Said, if coaching didn't matter, Jerry DiNardo would be a Hall of Famer. Man, ain't that the truth? And a lot of people are taking shots at Jerry DiNardo. Guys, remember this. Peyton Manning does not get an SEC championship without Jerry DiNardo, because Jerry DiNardo led LSU to an upset of Florida in 1997, which opened the door for Tennessee to get back to Atlanta after they lost to Florida early in the season. However, to be fair, Jerry DiNardo was loaded with talent, as people bring up. He just wasn't the greatest coach. I mean, that's just how it was, guys. Sorry. Jerry DiNardo was not a good coach. LSU has a track record of hiring many, many, many really bad coaches. That's LSU's history, guys. So it's something that is nothing new for them.